What's up, Predator fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast back with another action figure review. This time I'll be looking at the Neca Alien vs. Predator Series 14 figure of the Scar Predator. Let's have a look at the packaging. This is a card and bubble design. I think it's attractive, although it's not quite as eye-catching as the box-style packaging that we see here, like with the Alpha Predator. By the way, I'm working on a review of this figure as well. On the positive side, this style of packaging does allow collectors to see the figure quite well while it is still mint in packaging. On the front, it says Alien vs. Predator. Neca designates this figure as intended for ages 17 and older. Here is a brief bio of the Scar Predator. If you'd like to read this, pause the video and do so now. I got a really good deal on this figure, partially due to the fact that the card and bubble are not in perfect shape. The figure is clearly visible through the front of the bubble, and the accessories are located to the side and behind the figure. And with no further ado, let's bust this figure out of the package and see what's inside. Let's have a look at accessories now. And here we have the combi stick. The paint applications are really well done on this. Here we have the ceremonial dagger. And of course he used this to cut off the top of the alien skull and made a shield for Lex. And here we see the double wrist blades. The sculpting on these is excellent. You can see the light dancing off of the paint. And here we have the top of the armor that holds the plasma caster. And this, unfortunately, was the biggest disappointment for me. And I will get more into that later. And here we have the shuriken. And this is a little warped from being in the packaging so long, but nonetheless, it has been executed very well. And here we see the Scar Predator, free of the package and ready to rumble. This figure is highly detailed and screen accurate. There is a great deal to like here, although there is one area that is quite problematic. So let's take a closer look at the loose details now. Let me get the negative out of the way here. This is the shoulder mount for the plasma caster, and unfortunately this small piece is stuck in place. It is supposed to move, but when I try to do it, I hear squealing plastic, and that is certainly a red flag. And to complicate matters, when I put the plasma caster on the port, it doesn't want to stay. If I articulate it in any direction, it instantly pops off, and that is a problem. Although I am quite disappointed at this prospect, I may just have to display this figure without this part of his armor, because we're talking about very small plastic pins here, and I certainly don't want to break an old figure, one that is not easy to replace. Let's have a look at the lower body now. I'm really impressed by the armor on the feet and the calf muscles. The texture on this is outstanding. This looks very realistic. There's a scabbard for the ceremonial dagger here. And there is the dagger. So that is screen accurate. Neca did a superb job at making this plastic look like metal. The netting is not a separate piece, it is sculpted on, although these straps that go around the quadriceps are separate pieces. The paint work and the sculpting is very intricate around the hip area. Neca did an outstanding job here. Let's have a look at the torso now. And I feel like the abdomen is a little undersized. Canonically, the Yautja in AVP were younger and a little smaller. I think you saw that difference at the end when the elder predator showed up. But I still feel like this area should have been a little thicker. Although I'm really impressed by this gunmetal gray color on the armor. It is very eye-catching. Let's have a look at the arms now. And there is continued attention to detail. Although I noticed that I have an issue here with the hands. These are supposed to rotate, but I can only get a minimal amount of movement out of these. And that happens with older plastics sometimes. They settle into place and moving them becomes difficult. Although the double jointed elbows work, and I'll get more into the articulation later. You can see that this portion of the shoulder armor moves. So I'm thankful that that still works. And we also get the detail of the self-destruct mechanism. And this panel does flip open. So I really appreciate that. So I'd say that the arms are a mixed bag, and I really wish that we would have gotten an extra set of hands. Now let's take a look at the head sculpt, and there's very little to criticize here. The amount of detail is amazing. Like here you see the area where he marked himself. The mandibles are outstanding. You can see all of the detail with the skin here on the forehead. Now I will say that the predlocks, these are plastic. These are not rubber. Like we have with the Ultimate figures, these are not as pliable as those. Nonetheless, these are still eye-catching, as is this head sculpt overall. I'm very impressed by the work here. This looks very menacing. In terms of articulation, the feet move quite well. On the ankle joint here, there's plenty of pivoting, and you can get them to swivel from side to side. There's double jointed knees, so you can get this figure into a great running pose. The hip armor hinders the leg articulation somewhat, and I would be very careful about trying to force the legs into really dynamic poses. I feel like you might hurt the hip armor. The figure does step back somewhat, so I am happy with that. There's pivoting at the waist and swiveling at the upper torso. In terms of the arms, you can raise them up at the shoulder joints this much. You can raise these shoulder armor pieces up like this, and that will allow for greater articulation of the arms. I'd be very careful about doing a 360 though. It feels like you might damage something. You certainly want to exercise caution with a 9-year-old figure like this. The figure has a bicep swivel on each arm, and they work well. So if you'd like to have him telling a xenomorph, "You can't see me," you do have that option. In terms of the head articulation, the head moves easily from side to side. It moves up that much, it moves down that much, and there is some head tilting. So the articulation is a mixed bag, but overall I'm happy with what Neca has done here. With a great level of anxiety, I applied some force to the shoulder mount, and I was able to get the plasma caster onto the figure. However, this part simply doesn't work the way that it was intended, so ultimately, I think I'm going to have to get another Scar Predator figure. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this review, and please, tell all of your friends about this channel. I would certainly appreciate it. And I'll be back with more Predator content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and thanks for watching.